Hello everyone. Today, I have a fun and heartwarming story for you. What happens when a wrong number leads to the right person? Let's find out in Wrong Number, Right Love. Let's begin. Sophie was exhausted. It had been a long and boring Friday at work. She worked as a graphic designer at a small company where she mostly fixed other people's mistakes. Her boss, Mr. Thompson, always gave her last-minute work, and today was no different. She sighed as she stepped onto the bus, holding a cup of cold coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. Just as she sat down, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. "How about lemon chicken for dinner tonight?" Sophie frowned. Who was this? Her best friend Mia was allergic to lemon. Her brother Liam hated chicken, and she had no boyfriend. Sophie, wrong number, I think. But if you're paying, I accept. A few seconds later, another message arrived. Unknown number. Then meet me at Lorenzo's at 8 p.m. We will see if it's really a wrong number or not. Sophie chuckled. This was probably some guy texting his girlfriend and making a mistake. But what if it wasn't? Sophie, all right, mystery person. Let's see if you're a serial killer or just a terrible texter. She didn't expect a reply. Unknown number. Hopefully just a terrible texter. Sophie laughed. Maybe this was exactly the kind of adventure she needed. At 7:55 p.m., Sophie stood outside Lorenzo's, a cozy Italian restaurant. It was a bit fancier than she had expected. What if this was a prank? Just as she was about to leave, she heard a voice behind her. Sophie? She turned and saw a man standing there. He was tall, well-dressed, with dark brown hair and a charming smile. You must be the mystery texter, she said, crossing her arms. Guilty, he grinned. I'm James. Sophie raised an eyebrow. So, James, tell me, who are you really texting? James rubbed the back of his neck. I was actually trying to text my best friend, Mark. But, well, I typed the number wrong. Sophie smirked. And instead of apologizing, you invited me to dinner? James laughed. Your response was too good to ignore. Plus, I figured, why not? We both have to eat, right? Sophie considered it for a moment. He didn't seem like a serial killer, and she was starving. All right, James, let's have dinner. They sat at a table near the window. Sophie studied the menu, while James leaned back, watching her. So tell me, Sophie, what do you do when you're not answering strange messages? I'm a graphic designer, she said, closing the menu. I mostly spend my days fixing ugly PowerPoint slides. James laughed. Sounds thrilling. Oh, absolutely. And what about you? I'm an architect, he said. I design buildings that nobody can afford to live in. Sophie chuckled. So basically, we both work for people who don't appreciate us. Exactly. James raised his glass. To being underappreciated. Sophie clinked her glass against his. Cheers. Dinner was unexpectedly fun. They talked about everything: favorite foods, embarrassing childhood stories, worst job experiences. Halfway through the meal, James looked at Sophie and smiled. You know, this is the best mistake I've ever made. Sophie blushed. Well, don't make it a habit. You might end up texting an actual serial killer next time. James laughed. Noted. After dinner, James walked Sophie to her apartment. So, he said, shoving his hands into his pockets, what are the chances you'll let me take you out on a second date? Sophie pretended to think. That depends. On what? On whether you accidentally text me again. James grinned. I think I can arrange that. They exchanged numbers, the correct ones this time, and Sophie went inside, smiling to herself. Over the next few days, James and Sophie texted constantly. James, accidentally texting you again? Oops, Sophie. Oh no, what a terrible mistake. Guess we have to go on another date. Their second date was even better than the first. And then there was a third, and a fourth. Sophie found herself looking forward to his messages. She hadn't felt this excited about someone in a long time. One evening, James texted her. James, I have a surprise for you. Sophie, is it a puppy? James, better. Sophie, I doubt that, but okay, what is it? James, meet me at the park tomorrow at 6 p.m. The next evening, Sophie arrived at the park, curious and a little nervous. James was waiting for her with a picnic blanket and a basket. You brought food, she said, raising an eyebrow. I did, James said, but that's not the surprise. He pulled out a small envelope and handed it to her. Sophie opened it and gasped. Inside were 2 plane tickets to Italy. James, she looked at him shocked. Are you serious? He nodded. I remember you said you've always wanted to go, so what do you say? Sophie laughed. I say you're crazy. But, James prompted, smiling. But I'm crazy enough to say yes. James grinned. Then it's a date. Their trip to Italy was like a dream. They ate pasta in Rome, rode a gondola in Venice, and got lost in the streets of Florence. Somewhere between the laughter, the late-night conversations, and the stolen kisses, Sophie realized this wrong number had led her to the right person. And sometimes, the best love stories start with a simple mistake. And that's how a simple mistake turned into a beautiful love story. Sometimes, life surprises us in the most unexpected ways. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you next time.